I had a dilemma last night when I was thinking about this. When you have the chairman of the State Board of Education and the superintendent of public instruction and the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee all on the stage with you, what is the appropriate protocol of who you are supposed to introduce first? And so I have to say that what I decided was that alphabetical order was the safest way to go on these introductions. So I'm going to start with June Atkinson, who is, I'm sure all of you know, is our Superintendent of Public Instruction in North Carolina, which she has been since 2005. She is the first woman to ever hold that position. I debate about whether that's actually important, because the important thing is what a good job she's doing. But I also think it's good to see women in these kinds of leadership positions. June certainly understands the importance of graduating all students career and college ready. She's one of the state's key leaders in the Race to the Top effort, and she has been working very hard to lead the state in revitalizing the public schools curriculum and our assessment to match that curriculum and the kind of skills and capacity we need to develop to implement that. So thank you for being here, June. Okay, alphabetically next, H before J. A was easy. Bill Harrison, as you know, is the chairman of the State Board of Education, which he has been since 2009. Before that, he was considered to be one of the state's best school superintendents when he was in Hope County, Orange County, and Cumberland County. So he has led very diverse, different kinds of school systems around the state, and he's led all of them well. He also is one of the state's Race to the Top leaders, and he completely understands how much we need to develop systems and capacity to deliver on our vision to be enabling all children to learn well. Representative Linda Johnson is the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. She comes from Cabarrus County and has served in the legislature for 6 terms. She's also the chair of the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee on Education, and she has been one of the champions in the General Assembly for Public Education. So thank you all for being here. So I'm going to start with the kind of where we are now, which is what steps are already being taken in North Carolina to develop North Carolina's capacity to link education to high-wage jobs. So what are we already doing that is moving us in the direction to link education and the kind of economy that we want to become? And I think I'll start with you, Representative Johnson, since I introduced you last.
Thank you. I looked at the question. First, to let me say, my voice is a little raspy. I've had a respiratory infection, and my voice was always raspy, but it's a little harsher now, and I appreciate your indulgence in that. The key word in that question was innovation, and I think no matter how you define that, you can use modernization or improvement or however you want to define it. Our state needs to move in all the definitions of innovation. And what I did in thinking about that question was, what can we all agree on is what the first thing we had to establish in order to move forward. And we agree that the economy is in a downturn, and we agree that education determines the quality of our workforce, and the future of the economy of this state is in the quality of that workforce. And we agree that the U.S. has the ability to be innovative due to the structure of our government, and we all agree that we're in a global economy and we must compete globally, and we all agree that the future hinges on the ability to prepare our young people to think. So taking all of those things and putting them together, knowing that we agree on these basic issues, we had to move forward with new leadership. So the main question was, how do we do that? And the majority of our legislators, and especially those in leadership roles, agree with those 5 things. They believe that all of that has to be done. And the legislature is really where we hear every citizen's desires. We'd get that by the vote, and including how the legislature feels and how the citizenry feels. You combine those and try to reach a good balance, and we had to do that. A downturn in economy turned out to be a little bit more than we had anticipated, but we had to handle it through the budget and our appropriations and through our revenue, and we first had to address the uncertainty of our economy. This has never happened before, so we didn't know. But the taxpayer wanted, or the voter, wanted limits on taxation. They wanted reducing of waste and restructuring of departments of government. And we did all of this, and it did reduce some of our operating costs. Then to address the workforce, we reduced the red tape and limited the taxes, and to improve the quality. I know y'all probably don't feel like it's really happened, but to improve the quality of education, education was cut less than any other cuts made in our budget. And I want to say just one thing about how this is, how we can be more innovative, and that's through teamwork and a team effort. And I want to say to both of y'all how much I appreciate the efforts y'all have made to adjust with our budget and with our policy changes.
Thank you. So why don't we just go down the line? Why don't you tell us what the state board is already doing that you think is moving us towards linking public education with the economy that we want the state to have?
I think to follow up on what Representative Johnson had to say and what we heard this morning, I think there are really 2 reasons that we need to make sure every child leaves school career or college ready. First, because of the economic reasons. The jobs simply aren't there for the unskilled individual today, so we need to do, if our economic system, if our strong democracy is going to thrive, we need to have an educated citizenry. The second reason, we have a moral responsibility to every child we serve. I think we all know what we want for our own children. Those of us who have children and those of us who are in decision-making positions in public schools have a moral obligation to do for everyone else's child what we want done for our own. I think the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction have seen that for some time. And I'm proud to be part of the state of North Carolina, as we heard from some other folks this morning, that Career College Ready, Set, Go is all about doing that. That's the Governor's Education Plan, and that's our Race to the Top plan. If you look at Race to the Top, and I think Judith mentioned that this morning, when that proposal first came out, we said that was crafted for North Carolina. Because what they looked at were 4 pillars, and we've been working on that, and I don't want to steal Jean's thunder and let her build on this, but we think it's going to happen for all kids. A couple of things need to be in place, and those are basically the things that are in Career College Ready, Set, Go, and those 4 pillars of Race to the Top. That we have high standards and a good, solid, robust accountability system. We were in the process of revising our standard course of study before the Common Core came along. We were one of the early adopters of the Common Core. We were in the process of revising our assessment system to become much more authentic, more of a focus on formative assessment. Second piece has to do with data systems. Again, those of us out in the field who used to curse and cuss about NCYs, we were ahead of the curve. We had a much better statewide data system than any state to my knowledge, and this gives us an opportunity to make that even better, make that even much more comprehensive. We all know that at the end of the day it comes down to every child having a quality teacher in the classroom. Great teachers and great leaders, that's part of Race to the Top. That's the other pillar. We've been working hard on that. The revisioning of our our education programs, revisioning of our master's degree program through our independent colleges, through UNCGA, that was in place. So we feel that we're going to have a better pipeline. We're looking at alternative pathways as well. And then the final piece is turning around low-performing schools. And we could stand up here and show you the tremendous progress that's been made in turning around low-performing schools in the last 4 or 5 years by Pat Ashley and her entire team at DPI, plus folks out there doing great work in the school system. So we have the foundation in place to make this happen, and we'll continue to move forward.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Thank you, Leslie. Good afternoon to all of you. To the credit of North Carolina, it is very powerful that the State Board of Education, Department of Public Instruction have remained steadfast in the goal that all students will graduate and that they will be ready for options. And that has been a very important driving force. But we know now that if we are going to graduate all of our students, that all of them will be prepared for options, high-paying jobs, etc. That, as someone has said earlier today, we have to personalize education for every single child. And one of the most exciting things for which we are committed to do in Race to the Top is to build a technology infrastructure where every teacher, every parent, every student will have rich resources available to them that can be used to personalize education and to also to have a coherent system of education for every child. We are in the midst of developing an instructional improvement system, a shared learning infrastructure. We have partners from the Gates Foundation and Carnegie Learning. We are working with 4 other states to build that system, and there is a huge commitment in our state with our resources and with that of other states and those foundations to build that shared learning infrastructure, which will give us the opportunity to be able to personalize education for every single child. We've made the commitment, as Bill has mentioned, to having a common core of standards for English language arts, mathematics. In some respects, that's old news in North Carolina because we are working now to roll out those standards so that every teacher will be able to use those standards in ways that we have not been able to do before. And one big difference between the old and the new is that teachers will have the resources, but they'll also understand through quality professional development that they will know how those concepts are used. They will be able to answer the question, why do I need this stuff? Another important part to show our commitment are that all of the partnerships that we have developed as a result of working and having Race to the Top funds. And that's a part of our innovation model. We have to have partners who can help us because we recognize that we cannot do it alone to be able to personalize education for every child and to do the things that Bill has outlined. Also, when we look at our record, we know that the General Assembly this past time passed a new law where we would have regional schools. That brings us to another infrastructure. We have virtual schools. North Carolina has the 2nd largest enrollment in virtual schools of any state in the union. So there are some examples of how we are moving forward to personalize education so that every child will be prepared, and how we have plans underway and are working very diligently to have a technology infrastructure that will make it so much easier to have access to resources that will make a difference for student learning and for personalization.
Thank you. So we've spoken about this economic uncertainty that we have had in the state in the past few years, and I think going forward. And so the next question is how you think that this time of economic uncertainty that we find ourselves in will impact North Carolina's commitment to education innovation that it's linked to the economy. So why don't we start with you, Bill, on that one?
You give me the hard ball.
You want to use my notes?
Yes, let me try it.
I told you what was going to be on the test ahead of time, so you should be prepared.
You told the 2 women, you didn't tell me. I think it's interesting. I came to Raleigh right in January of 2009 when the economy was really beginning to sink, and we talked about not letting the tough economic conditions get in the way of innovation and not using that as an excuse, and to really use that as an opportunity to reset our priorities and to understand, and I think we all understand that we need to do some things differently. We're doing a better job than we've ever done before at what we were designed to do, but we weren't designed to develop students to work in the 21st century. So how can we reshape this enterprise when we have tough economic conditions? So I think there were some opportunities. Unfortunately, the economy has been very, very slow and actually got worse, and it's beginning to bounce back, and I think it's beginning to take its toll. And I probably need to talk with superintendents and principals out there in the field. I think this year, for the first year, I'm beginning to hear a little bit of frustration about just trying to hold our own, as we've seen some class size increases, as we've seen some reduction of support positions. But we've got quality people out in the field, and they're not going to let that stuff get in the way of doing their job and taking care of our young people. So I think it, in some perverse way, provides some opportunities for us to really focus. And when we come out of the economic downturn, I think we'll be much stronger for it. But it's difficult, and I often talk with friends out in the field, colleagues out in the field, and they say, gosh, it's tough on you now that you've gone to Raleigh, you've picked a bad time to go. And I say, well, it's a whole lot tougher on people out there in the school systems than it is us up here in Raleigh. And I just, my hats off, and I applaud those who are out there really doing more with less. And I'm so proud of what they're doing. But we need to get this thing turned around and get some resources back to our folks in the school. And I know the General Assembly will do the very best they can to make that happen.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, through Race to the Top, we really have funds to really do a comprehensive remodeling of education. And while we do that comprehensive remodeling of education, we know that when we are in the condition that we're in now, that people may look at efficiencies and be more serious about how we can remodel education so that we can have personalization for every single child so that they would be prepared. Unfortunately, I believe in my travels throughout North Carolina, our resources are stretched as tight as a rubber band. And it's important for us to recognize that if we do want to make progress in North Carolina, if we really want to remodel public education so it'll be better, that we have to look toward how we can have the resources necessary to continue. And I'll give you one example. Technology. We're building that infrastructure where, just like another utility, we would need to have that technology infrastructure in place. There will come a time when we need to have a consistent funding stream to be able to continue. And that is one of our challenges as we go forward in times where we don't have money to spare and we don't have enough money to cover all of our needs. So we have to be extremely strategic in where we place our resources. And that will require us to pay greater attention and make sure that our policymakers, our General Assembly, know what the research says. And so we will have to have a greater emphasis on using research to guide our efficiencies in the future.
And so what do you think our current economic uncertainty does to our commitment to innovation in education?
First, let me say that my superintendent's here, and he's told me he's as efficient as he can get. He can't get any more. But he's run out of efficiency. And Representative Blackwell is here today, too, and he's run out of me giving him a small budget to work with. So understanding everybody's problems and trying to work, I think you're right, June. I think you have to pick the priorities. What will benefit us the most? Working together as a team, I'm really pleased to be here. working as a team, we can always find things that we agree upon and bring our resources together, and that will allow us to reach goals that we know have to be done, even though we know our economy is bad.
So I think I just would add to that, if I can, as the moderator, that in some ways, as we look at the state's economy, and we have to recognize that it's changing and it's never going to be the same as it was, that should increase our motivation to think through how we have to change education so that the next generation will be ready for the economy of the future, not for the economy of the past. And so in some ways, it is an opportunity to rethink the direction that our education system needs to take. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that yesterday, Superintendent Atkinson and Dr. Harris and I and Representative Blackwell were in Pinehurst. I found that an unusual meeting in that I think that everyone agreed on the things that I mentioned at the very first and how to get there. I saw a difference in the way that we realize that we have to work together. And I really do think that is the key. When you change in the legislature, changes every 2 years, which makes it really difficult for the state board especially to determine where they're going and what they're going to do. But I found yesterday that I believe there's a cohesiveness in all the leaders in education, in knowing that with the new technology, we move at a greater speed, and we all agree there. But people expect things instantly now. You can't deliver a sure thing instantly. There are no silver bullets. That does not keep you from having that frustration, but teamwork will make that move faster. And I found that happening yesterday. I thought that was a great sign for our state.
Good, thanks. And you wanted to add something?
Yes, I just want to give one example of what Representative Johnson has said. The Career and College Promise. That had support of the governor, that had widespread support in the General Assembly. That's an example of how I believe that we will gain some efficiencies in our work between the community college system and the public school systems. And that's also an example where we are focusing on priorities. Priorities to prepare students for STEM occupations, priorities to focus on career technical education, where we minimize unnecessary duplication of effort. And I think that is just one example of where we have had a team effort to move to a better place where we can have greater pockets of innovation through the Career and College Promise, and that we will get better results for North Carolina.
So I think the last question is actually the hardest question, which is we all know that it's going to take resources, both human resources and financial resources, to take innovations that are working to scale in a way that they impact a much broader group of students and children. So does North Carolina have the will to provide these human and financial resources that we know will be needed to take innovation to scale? And if we don't have the will, what do we need to do to create the will? So you can, anyone that wants to can go first.
I think part of a real motivator for change is a vision so compelling that people want to play and people want to make that change. And I think we need to just get out and share the positive stories that we've had about where we're making it happen for some students. I'm so proud of what's happening in Duplin County. Duplin County is a completely different story today than it was 5 years ago. And I think, as Dr. O said, if it can happen in Duplin County, it can happen. So we need to do, as the New Schools Project, as the Department of Public Instruction, as the State Board of Education, as the General Assembly, do everything we possibly can to support those efforts where we're developing these pockets of excellence, and then hold them up. And if it can happen for all kids here, that can happen for all kids there. And I think the proof will be in the pudding the next couple of years. Do we, as a state, have the will? Do we truly care about making it happen for all kids?
You want to have the last word or the next word?
You want to go ahead?
Okay. One of my favorite sayings is that of Frosty Troy, who was in Oklahoma. I believe he was a news journalist, and he said that our job is to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. And I think that that has a lot of meaning to us as we try to move forward with the will. There are pockets of innovation in this state, and we need to provide the comfort for them, the cover for them, and a venue for them to spread the word about the results that they are getting. And then we also need to afflict the comfortable, those who believe that the world today and tomorrow will be the way it was 15 years ago. And one of the exciting things about the technology instructional improvement system and the shared learning infrastructure is that it will make those resources available in a very rapid speed where teachers and principals and students can see those pockets of innovation and can use that in any classroom. Of course, a key is professional development. We have to continue to develop teachers and principals and leaders along the way.
So do we have the will to provide the resources?
I'm going to tell you, yes, we do, and I'm going to tell you why I know we do. I come from a little town in Cabarrus County, and that town was a textile town. And in the year 2003, all of a sudden, I had 4,000 people laid off in my area, and all our community knew was the textile industry. In that, we formed together. Our community came together. The school systems, the local governments, the community colleges especially helped us in the workforce. But it took all of the people in the area, all the businesses, all the entrepreneurs, all of the systems that the state offers, because my workforce did not want financial help. They wanted a job. And I think we find that statewide now. My town now has a research campus with 8 universities on it. Most of the, well, not but about 3,000, not but 3,000, have been re-educated and put back in the workforce. And we had problems where our community college couldn't prepare all of the training we needed because there were 23 languages spoken in that textile industry. So needless to say, we had to change. We had to find a way. I believe the people in North Carolina, especially those strong Irish people, make up their mind they want to do something, and I think they have. We'll move forward, but it will be the people. It will be the people wanting to help, wanting to work as a team, and the communities wanting to support government, not distract from the work it's doing. It'll take everybody together. I know that small town of 35,000 did it. And we're strong people, but they are the people in North Carolina. And I believe that's what will happen in our state. I believe we have the will to do that.
Thank you. So it's hard work to be a leader of public education in North Carolina. So I want to thank the 3 of you, not only for being here today, but for what you do every day to be leaders of public education in the state. Thank you.